recording in 2. All right, we live, doggy.
Yay, we live.
Welcome back to the Abs Fitness Experience. Yes, we've changed the name.
Yes.
So we've discussed this last episode.
good name
We've
change.
changed the name. It's now
Great
the
name
Abs
change.
Fitness Experience, no longer
Stole a little bit of
Operation
Joe
Hustle.
Rogan's name and made it our own.
Yeah.
Welcome back, freak bitches.
Continuity.
Isn't that what paraphrasing is? Or, you know what I mean? Taking one's idea and continuing to expand it.
I guess.
New theories.
More like assimilation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're sponsored by Abs Fitness, our gym.
Yep.
If you guys want to
Sponsored.
come join, make a change.
That's right.
We'll change your life. We'll change your goals.
So last
make you an
week, what did
animal.
we talk about? Last week we talked about
Goals?
goals, 2023 goals, and just I think we gave a couple tips on like how to stay disciplined, and I think we talked about how discipline is really just creating a routine. And then today we wanted to discuss, today's topic would be execution and prioritizing goals.
And discipline goes right along with execution. There's a quote, Jocko.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline equals freedom. That's it.
Great quote.
Very simple, straightforward quote, and it is true, 100%. If you're disciplined, you will have freedoms. And he believes in the law of combat. You know what this is?
No.
Not necessarily.
It's prioritize and execute, right? So you
yeah.
prioritize your problems first, then you execute them. One
Yeah.
by one,
You know,
not all at one time.
I feel like if you've, and I told Justin this morning, and I think, it can't hurt to be reminded, because even if you are somebody knows how to execute and prioritize because of this, sadly, that doesn't mean that you can't be reminded. But I think if you've gone through some sort of trauma, you know how to prioritize and execute, because you kind of have to. You have to prioritize your current problems on the table, push the trauma to the back, and execute on the daily. Right. So that's kind of like, if you've already been through trauma, you know how to do that. Right. But it can't hurt to be reminded, because I kind of think that within our own trauma, when we learn how to do that, we kind of almost become desensitized to larger problems. And so smaller problems then sometimes seem, the perception is off, bigger than they are. And so the accumulation of smaller problems sometimes makes it hard and cloudy for us to really look at the problem and execute and prioritize the smaller things, and getting ourselves to realize they're not as overarching as they seem.
Yeah. I think that there are, certain hallmarks within everyone's daily, like day-to-day habits, as well as within their emotional status, that allow them to understand whenever, those smaller goals are, becoming more prominent or more necessary in order to achieve the next step in whatever their journey is. And I heard a really good quote from one of my old-time clients. He's been on here a few times. Talk to Me Therapy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Scott.
Shout out to
Scott.
Scott.
What up, Scott?
Scott said that essentially, if like depression is like a check engine signal coming up on your dash when you're driving your car, right? It doesn't mean that everything's going to shut down and burn to the ground immediately, but it means that something needs to change, because the vehicle's not going to continue operating in a proper function if it's not taken care of.
Yeah.
So he associated, depression to a check engine light, and, you've got to take a look inside the vehicle, inside the engine, see what's going on. So,
For sure.
different people have different check engine lights. And, I was talking about a client about this morning, and I was talking about, my check engine light, when I start to realize I'm going down a spiral that's not going to be productive and it's going to hinder my day, is I'll realize either I'll start stress eating, or I will start, trying to pick at my face and find pimples.
Yeah.
So, I have like 2 habits that are bad habits. As soon as I start doing them, I look at them and I'm like, shit, there's a time frame on this. I need to get rid of it. I need to stop doing this right now, and regain control, and then prioritize and execute.
That's it.
Yeah. It's funny, because it's like those 2 patterns are exactly mine. Like,
I think there are a lot. I was
eating
actually
and
gonna say
picking
that.
my face.
I think
It's
a lot
like,
of people have the same
you know,
problem.
and I told Justin, this is kind of funny, because,
gross. We're
it
sick
is
fucking
gross.
humans.
It
Yeah,
is
it's
gross.
disgusting.
But it's kind of funny with the picking your face thing, because it's like, I told Justin, I'm like, I don't know, like, what I'm trying to, like, find in that mirror. Am I, like, trying to find, if I keep picking long enough, like, a deeper soul to Abby? Like, am I like, you're in there somewhere, and I gotta keep picking until I find you? Like, it's sickening. It really is. The mirror is the most vain thing that you could do.
Intuitively, I feel as though, there's a deeper response to this, and it could all be bullshit, but, like, intuitively, I feel like whenever it comes to picking, you're typically trying to get rid of something toxic. Like something toxic is nagging at you.
I
And
mean,
so
there
you
are
turn to the
dirty ass
immediate-
pimples on everyone's face.
Yes, but the reason that you notice them on the,
That's
True.
It is
true.
satisfying popping those
Yeah.
dirty,
It is.
disgusting blackheads. I'm not
It
gonna
is.
lie.
it really
It's kind of
is.
fun. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the
It
problem. But it's he's what he's saying is it's deeper than just it's fun,
Of
right?
course.
Because it's like, listen, it's fun to do a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, doesn't mean that we constantly have to do them. Sometimes it's fun to
Yeah.
sit in the mud if you're somebody that enjoys that. But
Mhm.
can you sit in the mud all day long like a pig? No, you got
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
So he's saying there's something deeper that's like
I get it.
in that, right? You're externalizing away.
Yeah, there's like on the roll of a die, you know, the probability of you picking at your face whenever there's some sort of toxic environment in your real life that you need to get rid of, but you haven't, you know, taken care of properly.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, when you're existing in a really positive, awesome environment, and when you've like done everything you need to do, it's probably higher.
Yeah.
That's all I'm really saying. And then like the eating thing, you're searching for something, so you
Yeah.
probably pass.
We don't
the,
need to
like-
eat as much as we do.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And especially as much sugar, which I
Yeah.
love.
And if you've ever done a 24-hour fast, you know that for damn sure.
Yeah, I never
But
have.
productivity,
but-
oh my gosh, productivity.
Yeah, it has to. You have
get-
to keep yourself busy or you're going to fucking go nuts.
I literally probably get 3 times done.
Hanger is
in
real.
a 24-hour fast.
So, you know, I was thinking about that this morning too. So I was telling Justin, and like, is there any way to move that iPad back so like my face isn't completely
Your
covered?
face
There we go.
is-
Okay, so anyway, I was telling Justin that sometimes I feel like, and I heard this kind of in one of the shows we were watching yesterday, and then I was like, that's kind of true. It was like, or it was, I think in The Witcher. Anyways, a monk was talking
Witcher.
about it, and it was like, you know, fear is like, again, it was building on fear as a sickness in the body and stuff, and I started thinking like, maybe I'm externalizing away because I'm kind of maybe subconsciously fearful of like how much I'm gonna actually like the knowledge I'm gonna obtain, or like how much I'm actually gonna like become clear, like the clarity I'm gonna obtain in externalizing away from these habits. It's kind of almost fearful. You're like, so will I be happy? Right? Because I kind of also have learned in becoming more and more spiritually mature and just more and more healthy and more health conscious that like the more present and the more conscious I am, especially if you were someone who is an alcoholic or you got some sort of addiction to something and you become clear and you have this clarity, you're like, okay, this is kind of scary. Now I'm really present, you know, and I've never
Yeah.
done that before. And now what?
Yeah.
Right?
Now you awake. Welcome
No,
to
I
the
know, but I'm
Matrix,
just saying that is
baby.
really scary to a lot of people, right? And I
Yeah, it
noticed
is.
that when we talk to people in these sessions or, you know, in consultations, that's something that I think frequently comes up for people, but they just don't notice they're doing it. They're externalizing away from like how much presence could feel.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. It
Yeah.
does. And I've been working on a mantra recently that like kind of goes in line with that, because I think that there is a truth to sobriety, because it is, you know, your existence without, let's say, influence, right? Without direct chemical influence. It's one of the maximal controls that we can apply on our own life in order for us to exhibit and understand the world in its purest form, because we are in our purest form in turn. You know, whenever it comes to like sobriety, I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, and I've been trying to think about something Jordan Peterson touches base on, which is essentially that the fundamental basis of our reality is truth, right? So the fundamental of reality is truth. And I was thinking about, like, you know, if truth was to be put into any type of, you know, mantra or phrase, what would it be? And I came up with "it always is." That's it. Really simple. It always is. It applies to absolutely every situation possible, except maybe it's not always. Maybe it's just it is.
Yeah,
It is.
it is. I like it. Short, means a lot. It's 2 words. It is.
It is.
Yeah.
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 So in moments when I feel like that way, like I'm like, shit, is this going to be fucking scary? Is this going to be like, am I going to be less happy then? Am I
It
gonna
is gonna
less
be
happy
scary.
10 years down the road? Of course it's scary. We don't know what's going to happen. It's the future. It's impossible to predict. But
Yeah. Well,
it is.
there's one possibility that we all have to face, and it's death. It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
So don't waste
I
your
think,
time
and
doing
I
bullshit.
think that's like somewhat sort of like the thoughts I have is like, you know, when you become sober, you're kind of like, Okay, and so like everybody has that fear of existential crisis. We all are afraid of like what's beyond this, right? But like the people
Yeah.
who have addictions and who have addictive personalities, it's kind of more scary in the sense of like this. So like, you know, if I'm fall short to alcohol, then of course I can fall short to being obsessed with like finding the truth to what is. So it's like, and then, you know, and there's nothing wrong searching for answers, and there's nothing wrong with expanding your mind, and there's nothing wrong with having this deeper spirituality. But then it's kind of like, all right, well, there's got to be a balance to that, because at one point in time, you know, you can cause yourself fear when instead you're supposed to just kind of be okay with the fact that it is.
Yeah, it's like that flow
Sure.
state.
Yeah.
I always describe it. I use this metaphor so often, but essentially, like it's like when a fighter is stiff and they're tight in the ring and they're afraid. And
Yeah.
when you see that, you can see they're expending more energy, they're becoming more predictable, and they're losing their edge quickly.
Yeah.
People do the same thing, so you got to recognize in life when you're
It's like
stiff.
panic.
Exactly. Exactly. And panic makes you stiff. It makes you freeze. It makes some people freeze. It makes some people run. But neither one of those is probably what you need in that moment.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like you got to recognize when you're frozen, and you got to find some way to ground yourself, break the fuck out of it, and then flow back into the situation.
So that's part of identifying a problem, which I have notes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So-
essentially what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is how to identify
So
a
how
problem
do
when
you
you're in that
identify a
like
problem?
freeze mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are ways to identify, like that, right? You shut down, and that becomes a problem, or you know it's a problem because you're shutting down.
Yeah, the shutdown is what I'm
And
describing. What
that's
we're all
how
describing is the
that
shutdown.
is pretty much how you identify it. That's most problems you're going to shut down, and then how do you prioritize them? Because you're going to have problem after problem.
So here's
after
my
problem.
thing. Okay, so for the people who don't even know that they're shutting down, here's a little tip. So what we're describing is feeling your emotion. I think a lot of times people want to, and I was just talking with Justin about this, is like, you know, why you might have that fifth drink, or why you might have that, you know, third puff of the marijuana, or why you might decide
The
to
marijuana.
you might decide to
The Mary
externalize
Jane.
out, right? Whatever it is. But why you're doing it is kind of because you're not wanting to feel that emotion. So like we were just talking about, you're typically shutting down, you're typically externalizing because you're feeling an emotion. And if you end up suppressing it and, you know, pushing it down with more and more,
You replace it with
escape from reality,
stimulant. That's pretty
right?
much what happens.
Exactly. So then you don't.
Procrastination.
It's that moment. It's realizing that you're wanting that second drink. It's allowing yourself to feel that uncomfortable feeling, and instead of reaching for it, it's giving yourself, okay, I'm gonna put the blunt out. I'm gonna wait and see how I feel. Okay, I'm gonna actually not order that fifth drink or not order that third drink and see how I feel. You know what I mean?
I'm not going to eat that eighth piece of pizza.
I'm not going to eat that third piece of pizza, although I want it, and I'm going to allow myself. And it's putting on a timer. It's putting on a timer when you're feeling these emotions, and allowing yourself, instead of shutting down, to really get, because we all don't want it to feel that feeling. It's the panic. Nobody likes to feel the panic. I don't either. I have anxiety as well.
Yeah.
And that's why you're like, that immediate moment is like, I need that dopamine trigger. I need that piece of bread. I need that blunt. I need that drink. I need to watch that, you know, a millionth episode of Netflix, because you're feeling like, what's going to happen when I'm present? Like,
Yeah.
and it's a
Well, a
scary
good way
feeling.
to do it, a short way to do it is...
Timer is
well,
one.
a timer, but this is a very simple way, right? It says, don't shut down. Don't let the problem overwhelm you. Relax, look around, make a call.
So, yeah, and you know what?
it.
I'm going to give a small
Simple.
example. I've done this a few times with some clients that have actually shut down or had some anxiety in consultations. This happens. People cry with us. People get very emotional. It's a very sensitive subject. I have several times went and got our ice roller. We have an ice roller, and rolled it on a client's wrist. Because when you're shutting down, here's another little tip besides a timer, is to put your wrist under hot or cold water, or get in a shower and let your whole body be in hot or cold water.
Ice baths, baby.
Ice baths,
Well, that'll
right?
wake you the fuck
Grounding
up, I'm
yourself.
sure.
It's shocking the central nervous system and telling yourself, I am okay. And while you're doing it, it's saying a mantra, or it's answering questions. What is my name? What is my husband's name? What is my dog's name? What year is it? Where do I live? You know, what is today? Is it Wednesday, right? And then it's reminding yourself of where I'm at in that exact moment, and that you are okay. And so once you answer those questions, it's saying something like, I am Abby, I am safe. I am Abby, I am safe. You know, it's something like that over and over, and so that you can get yourself to realize I'm not in that moment of whatever emotion is causing me to feel that way.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I think to like reverse kind of engineer that, because what you said is like it's important, and I really appreciate that like technique and that knowledge. I think it's really important to a lot of people to understand like when they get to that moment, how to get out of it, or how to like figure their way out so they can see what's around them more properly.
I think that's where our shortcomings are as trainers, is that we don't have that psychological training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would be very helpful. And, you know,
For sure.
it's one of those things you learn kind of on the job with this type of, you know, job.
Yeah.
Type of a job.
Yeah. Well, it's not
Yeah.
just working people out. I mean, we have
Yeah.
to train them physically and mentally.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely mentally. A lot
Yeah.
more than physically you would actually, you wouldn't understand unless you were a trainer.
It's a ton of men.
But it's all mental.
Yeah, it is all mental.
It's
I mean,
everything
the
is
things.
mental.
Listen, I'm gonna say one comment, and we're not gonna name drop because that would be stupid. But this scenario is funny because he's not the only person that has said something similar to this. We've had so many people say this type of stuff. But you know, a client, you know, we help him with meal plans and such. You know, talking to his trainer on the floor about like, oh, you know, I'm only eating 2 meals a day. I don't know why it's not working. Hey, did you try that meal plan? Did you just give it a try? Well, I tried 1 meal off of it. Hey, do you like to waste $100 bills? Would you
meal.
take a $100 bill and just throw it down the toilet and flush it? No. Would you wipe it with your butt? No. Well, you just did. You didn't even use it. You literally just wiped your butt with it, right? Like, it was a complete waste of money. So, you know, that's like, it's just funny to me that we're like sometimes so in our mazes. And I'm not laughing at the sense of making fun of him. I'm like laughing at the scenario because sometimes we're so in the maze, we have no idea we're in it until somebody drops a comment like that and we're like, oh, you know? So, and it's that type of psychological training that we do need to do with clients instead of just standing around. And then I think sometimes people avoid trainers because they think that we're just people that just stand around and like doofuses or dunce
We don't
cap
just
and
count
count
your
reps.
fucking reps, people.
We're not caddies and we're
You know we
not
do.
rep counters. We're more than that. You know what I mean? Besides the knowledge that we contain
Caddies.
about working out and nutrition, like it does require a certain level of psychological training to help the average client make success. Otherwise, anybody can train somebody, right? Because we don't get to make these meals for you. We're not your cooks.
Anybody can write a workout.
Yeah, anybody can write a workout. And anybody can, you know, be a hype man. Really, let's be honest.
Well, some better than others. I
That's
believe
true.
I'm pretty good at
And that's true. Some better than others, but for the, you know, average trainer, you know, that it's more than that. It's
not
really
just
a
about hyping
deeper
them up, for
relationship.
sure.
I mean, if you're a good trainer, imagine it this way, right? So people are essentially trying their best to get results out of themselves in the most visceral way possible. And literally the vehicle in which they exhibit and exist within this world, they are trying to get results. They're trying to improve the quality and the quantity of their life. Literally, their existence on this planet is dependent upon this vehicle.
Yeah.
And they have failed. They're the best. They are the person that knows themselves best. And they have failed themselves in order to get them in order to get to that point where they are at a healthy, sustainable place.
Yeah.
And it's our job to bring them from that failure to a success. So if you can successfully bring someone to that level, it's a fucking important job.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It feels good too.
It does.
Like when a client, like you literally see them physically and mentally change. It is insane. It's an insane feeling for the trainer.
And seeing them like
sure.
awaken with that level
Yeah.
of consciousness is like, hey, finally you've arrived. You're
Yeah.
here. You're out of the maze. Hello. And it's like I'm reintroducing myself. It's really strange because I had this weird dream. I'll share it quick for a minute. I had this weird dream where I was reintroducing my biological mother to Ollie and Phil. And like it kind of made me laugh because like she wasn't mentally ill. She wasn't a drug addict, but she rolled up in a wheelchair. And that was the trade-off. But like, anyways, the point being is she reintroduced herself. And I kind of feel like that's how when clients come out of that and they come out of their maze, they make those changes, the mental change, the physical change,
Like,
mind,
holy
body, and
fuck,
soul.
I can't believe
it's
I
like,
was actually
hello, I'm
like
Abby.
that.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to finally meet the real you. Right?
Yeah.
It's like we're really meeting the real people underneath
sure.
that mask because we are all wearing masks. Some people are wearing paper mache ones and they're real deep, right? And it's hard to get that off because they've suppressed so much trauma, or they've suppressed, so much emotion. And some people just want a little quick plastic one. Wipe it off, boom. Hey,
Wham.
nice to meet you.
Disposable.
Yeah, but we got to remember that we do have the ability to create new identities. And we were actually talking about this with Ollie's client Lissa yesterday,
Definitely
oddly
do.
enough, on the way over to go drop off the U-Haul, is that we do have the ability to create new identities. But sometimes even when you get these people sober, right, and sober of food addiction, sober of alcohol, whatever, and sometimes people come in here and we get them to do both, motherfucker. We do. We have gotten people to get sober off of alcohol and food addictions.
He's off of, now food and
Alcohol.
the alcohol he has not touched since he started. So it's like almost 6 months now.
Well, yeah.
0 alcohol. And he's like, my family members, they're not drinking either when I go to the parties with them. I said, see, motherfucker, I told you, if you monkey see, monkey do.
That's right.
If you start saying no enough,
so-
people will see. They see your good habits. They
Yeah.
start catching on. They're like, holy shit, this dude made a big change in a small, short time.
People want what you have, especially if it's something that, produces light. But so with that being said, if you don't change the identity underneath, right? And this is kind of like what people talk about in AA, is anybody can get sober, right? And I don't mean that in the sense of it's easy. It is one of the hardest
Definitely
fucking
not
things to
fucking
do. But anybody can get sober, but it takes a special type of person to work the person underneath all of that addiction and to create a new identity and not to get lost in the sauce of shame and the victim pity party. And I had a sponsor tell me one time, get off your pity pot. So what are you going to do about it? And when she said that to me, I was like, she's right. Well, what am I going to do about that? Am I just going to keep telling that story? Am I going to keep moving? And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't share your stories, but there's a way in which sharing it becomes powerful and useful to others instead of victimizing and woe is me and the system has done me wrong again, right? And so if you don't change yourself underneath after you've lost all this weight and you don't realize why you even succumbed to that, right, then you may not keep those results. And that's where it becomes, again, very psychological for all of us. As personal trainers who are trying to really make a difference in the world.
You have to make a long-lasting change, and it has to be
do.
something that's permanent.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's never going to work.
Yeah, and the way you said that,
It'll fizzle out.
Oh, cool. We're getting some hearts, so people like what we're saying.
Hey.
Hopefully this is resonating with some people.
Ooh, if not, maybe you should make it resonate.
Right.
Change
But
that shit, no?
I'm speaking out for some of the people who do personal training, and there are other people. Listen, I think that there are cops that can do the same thing and can, in a jail cell when somebody has maybe had their first offense, that can, I want to say preach, but say some motivating words to somebody that could change their lives. And we've heard it. We've met people that have done that. That they're like, listen, there was this one cop that really changed my life and whatever. But sometimes it's that personal trainer. So we're speaking on the people that do what we do, and it's sometimes the personal trainer that you had that one time in your life that you may think back on, and you may still be in the maze because sometimes it happens. Like we get back to that really. Unpresent place in our life again because it's comfortable and that's all we know what to do. And Jordan Peterson said it best, and we listened to this on a podcast on the way up to the cabin that we did during our vacation. We took an Airbnb at this cabin in Swanee River. So we had a 2.5 hour drive. Anyway, long story short, Jordan Peterson said most people don't understand things because they don't understand the rules of the game. There is rules to every game, and if you don't understand it, and even life is a game, right? It's a game, it's a gander, it's a risk, right? It's the roll of a die. People say it's the cards you were dealt, right? There are rules to this game, and so if you don't understand the rules to understanding how to create a new identity, to feel better after you have gotten out of your entrapment, whatever that is for you, then you will not understand how to keep playing this game.
Yeah, it's not the cards that you're dealt. How you play him, motherfucker. You can get the shittiest hand ever and turn it into gold.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And Abby did it herself. She was dealt a real shitty hand, and look at her now.
I think, one of the really important ways to change how you play the cards is to change how you tell the story.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to change the story or else it's always the same.
And it's not the story that you tell others, it's the story that you tell yourself.
Yes, because it starts with the story you tell yourself.
Exactly. And then however you tell that story, pay attention to it next time. And then say it to yourself. Like if you find yourself telling someone a pity potty story, you should probably honestly take a look back at it, recount that story to yourself when you're alone, look at it, and then try and see if there's an actual way.
There's a way better way you can tell it too.
Exactly.
And change it so it's not a pity party. Get off the pity pot.
It's
You know
not
what I'm
even just
saying?
that.
That's
It's like you could
poopy
retell.
pants mentality.
You have a few strategies. You really could retell the story, but you also could relook at the scenario and figure out where you can take accountability. And that's something that actually people say in AA and Al-Anon is looking at where you can be accountable, right? Because even so, Al-Anon, for people that don't know, is a group for people kind of like alcoholics, and sometimes you have double dippers in there that are for, mothers, brothers, sisters, friends, anybody that has a loved one or someone you care about that is an alcoholic. It's a group for you to go and express these things, and it's a support group, and they go through the big book and stuff, just like AA. But anyways, so with this being said, you can use these. I forgot where I was going with this, man. I really
That's all
did.
right.
I don't know.
Recounting your story, right? So find accountability. So in both of these groups, they talk about where you can find accountability. So even if you are somebody who has a loved one that is struggling with alcoholism and you're not the one that is the alcoholic, if you're the husband or wife that keeps buying the alcohol, where's your accountability, Ali? No, answer.
Like as me being the person
No,
that
yeah.
buys alcohol?
Where would the accountability
Yeah,
be?
Ali.
Buying the alcohol.
Right. So what it's called? There you
Yeah,
go.
you're
Enabling.
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 Yeah, quit enabling.
And that goes with anything being said. So
much.
here's where I'm going to make the mic drop connection. This also connects to people who are losing weight, because typically we don't always get, and this isn't, like I said, typically, this isn't every client. Typically we get people who live with other people at home, and they're not the only one living at home.
Yeah.
And so you have to ask yourself, when you're looking at your own pity party, who else has accountability? Who's enabling me? Who's allowing this behavior? Who's encouraging it, right? And then you have to ask yourself why, right? Because there's accountability on your end. If your husband is the one enabling your food addiction, it's now your time to look at the situation and see why. So there is some sort of emotion he's trying to suppress down because it's too overwhelming for him to handle. So he's allowing and influencing, that sort of addiction, so he doesn't have to deal with it.
Or do it himself. That's
correct,
usually what happens.
correct.
Like, so if we get a couple in and one of them is making a change, the other doesn't sign up. The one that's trying to make the change usually gets influenced by the other at home. We can go
Correct.
out. We can still do the meal.
Correct.
We can still fucking eat this. You can still do this. They become the coach at home, and it never works, ever.
Yeah.
I've never seen it work. Barely ever. Once in a while, and then usually the relationship does not last, unfortunately.
Right.
Because then they start not seeing eye to eye on a lot of these things.
So then it's your job as the individual to look and go, am I really too sensitive, or do I have a lot of anxiety at night that my husband doesn't really like to deal with? Because when I have anxiety, I become obsessive, or when I have anxiety, I become demanding, or when I have anxiety, I become very victimized. What is it that I'm doing that my partner is now allowing and enabling this bad addiction and behavior to continue on so that he doesn't have to deal with it? Or so it's less of a burden for him, is maybe the better words to describe it. So it's then your turn to look at why the person is enabling. You have to remember the person who is enabling loves you, so they're enabling to help soothe whatever's going on with you. Heavy, I know. It's a lot to process. It is. Because when you think about it, you're like, whoa. So this person is doing this, they think, out of love, because they think that you're struggling and you're hurting and they want to stop that.
Yeah.
And usually under the root of that, right, it's comfort is what enabling is. Enabling equals comfort. So remember that the person doing it typically is trying to comfort you.
It's
Now,
not like they're
sometimes it's
trying
control.
to
Sometimes it's
sabotage
control.
you.
Right.
Most of the time.
Yeah,
they're not trying to
sometimes
sabotage.
it can be a controlling, abusive partner, but most of the time it is out of love and the partner wanting to comfort the other partner. So then it's your turn to look at, so if that's you, right, and you're the one here in the gym with us and you're continuing to work out and your partner's trying to still enable, that means you're still exhibiting that behavior, and it's time for you to work on that deeper level of yourself.
Yeah.
It's time for you to do the shadow work
sometimes
now.
your partner doesn't want you to change, unfortunately.
Well, that too.
And
that
that's
too.
where, like I said, that it might not end the way you want it to, but you will at least make the changes and attract someone that wants you as that change person.
Yeah, I mean,
So sometimes you got to cut the loss. You got to cut your fat. You know what I'm saying?
the truth is out there, and you'll find it or you'll live in the dark.
Well, it's that simple.
You got
He's
that right, Dougie.
Yeah,
you're
the
right.
truth is out there.
Yeah.
You either will find it or you won't. And sometimes the truth is appetizing to some people, and this is kind of how we started this podcast, so I really like how it's coming together, right? And sometimes it's not appetizing. As I said to myself, the present can be very scary, and that is also the truth, is the present. The moment you're in right now is always your truth. Right? We look at the news, we see all this crazy shit, we start crying over people we don't know and things they're going through, and that doesn't mean I don't either. I'm a very empathetic person, I do. But that's why I try not to intake it and try not to watch it, because, Ollie said it best, and we can learn from people who are younger than us, older than us, it does not fucking matter. But I learned from Ollie, like, what is my truth in my present moment? That's not my truth. That's not happening right in front of me, so I have to put my blinders on as a racehorse and figure out what is happening in my present moment that is affecting me. That's it. That's all I have the capacity to do. Otherwise, when I start externalizing out and start worrying about other things, which is, move this so I can look at the camera, which is mainly all of everybody. We all do it. We're so worried about everybody else, right? Get that out of my face.
You said you
no,
wanted it
I
up
said
and
I
close?
did not want it in my face. Thank you.
Want it up in the grill.
Anyways, we're so worried about everybody else and everything on the news and what's going on with this person, what's going on with the Kardashians, and what's going on with the president, and what's going on with, this country and that country. We can't focus on ourselves. We can't be present with our own things we need to work on.
Right now you're
because
watching
we're
us, not
externalizing
focusing
out.
on yourself. Turn it off.
Well, that's true. But
Do
maybe
some
this
study.
was your mic drop for today. Maybe this was your moment where you realized and you clicked, like, whoa, this is why I'm not making the progress. I'm stagnant with my trainer. I'm stagnant in the gym on my own, or I'm stagnant in life.
I'm sitting on Instagram, scrolling through
Dude,
stories.
the scrolling is unreal.
Why
Yeah.
am I still here?
So not only do I find myself
Am I
scrolling,
depressed?
but I do have a client that just told me, there you go, drop a name. Homeboy, you know who the fuck you are. Wakes up in the middle of the night, instantly grabs the phone, scrolls. He's like,
Yes.
2 hours at a time? I said, bro, what
In the middle of the night?
Wakes up randomly, doesn't go back to sleep or try to, grabs it, instantly, TikTok. So he deleted it.
Yeah.
And he's like, my screen time went down 33%. I was like, holy fuck. That's a problem. But he
So
recognized
33% of his
problem.
time was at night.
He recognized
Whoa.
his problem, right? He identified the problem. He prioritized, and he executed.
Well,
That's it.
I do want to
Simple.
close on this. Here's my thing. Don't be shameful, and I want that iPad out of my face too. Don't be shameful because
It's always going to be in your face.
it's hard because when you do have this type of mic drop moment, right, where you're like, oh my God, I'm wasting all this time. It's okay. Sometimes we are in different seasons of our life, and sometimes, and I do truly believe that, right? I think there are seasons in which we have the capacity to do certain work, mental work, and sometimes that may not have been your capacity. You know what I mean? But we can't look back on how much time we wasted. We can only look forward. Sorry.
Yeah, quit wasting the
look
time.
forward on the time that we have. Yeah.
One of my biggest flaws was gaming. Xbox. Bought one. Had a problem. Sold it. gone.
And we talked about this, but a lot of, and my alcoholism was a
Prioritize.
huge part of it. I was always worrying about the next party I could go to, or the next bar I could go to, or getting ready for an hour before going out, because that meant I had to go get beautified, and I had a reason to go out, and a purpose to look
Beautifying.
pretty, and a purpose to take pictures. And like, it's funny because like when you become very secure with yourself and you become very aware and present in the moment, you stop like taking as many selfies. I still love a good photo shoot, and I love to feel pretty, and I'm serious, these are still like fun things to do, but like I'm not obsessive about those things, and I don't care so much about makeup anymore. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen that shift. I used to wear makeup a lot when I was younger and stuff. So if you've known me when I was younger, you've seen that shift. I don't wear a ton of makeup and stuff, but you become more confident and assured of yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I stopped wearing makeup too, you know what I'm saying?
Me too. Yeah.
We all quit it together.
When I was 5.
All right, shut up. This is what it's like to work
All right,
with
so we're
men.
going to wrap it up. Recap. Remember, execution is key. Discipline equals freedom.
Execute, set timers if you're feeling
Don't
yourself
be a
shutting
bitch.
down. Be aware of it. Allow yourself to feel the really uncomfortable climax moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling anxiety. Put on that timer.
Yeah?
Yep.
Any recap thoughts for you, Alejandro?
I think that's about it. We
Yeah.
pretty much wrapped it up well there.
Stop wishing, start working.
Yeah,
That's
it's
as basic as it
It's
gets.
really just that simple. Stop wishing, start working.
I mean, execute. Discipline equals freedom.
Yeah. And
true.
the execution, as long as you put in the work before, is the easy part.
Yeah.
yeah.
And once you start doing it, though, you do fall into this pattern, and it becomes a lot easier, and then it actually becomes fun, like, almost making new goals.
Listen,
to crush,
here's
you
how
know?
I'm gonna end it with this simple thing. If you have a job, right?
Send it.
You made that work, right? So that became a routine. So if you could go to work every single day, with the exception of vacation days and time off with being sick, you can also create any other habit and any other identity for yourself that you want with routine.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Don't solve all the problems at once.
Yep.
One at a time.
One at a time.
Prioritize and execute,
Prioritize.
motherfuckers. Goodbye.
Let's